go backwards.
Okay, Papa. मैं और क्षेत्र
प्रेरणा हम तो कभी ना खिंचाए तक भत्ता लग रहा है।
चलो इधर आ जाओ।
मैं किधर गया? कहाँ है?
पीछे यहाँ खड़ी हो, यहाँ से इधर तो ना ठीक नहीं हो गई। और पीछे आ देखो न ठीक नहीं हो गई। पीछे आओ इस जगह देखो, पीछे आओ यहाँ पे, यहाँ से दूर से देखिए, दूर से देखिए कितना दूर ठीक नहीं।
अभी इसका देखिए हम लोग काम सही है।
और पीछे
ओह वाओ, अंदर देखिए। ओह वाओ।
Chacha, not everything is
बेटा
so it's plastic too. लाइट है ना, लाइट ऑफ होगा। नहीं कोई है ना, मेटालिक है। Look at me, Kante. Very nice. दादी आ जाओ। चाहिए इधर से चाहिए सब।
चुप हो जाइए।
ये फोटो खिंचा लो।
आएगी नहीं रे?
आ जाएगी नहीं? क्यों नहीं आएगी?
काली काली आएगी। 800 वाली होगी तो आ जाएगी। सिल्वर आएगी, बाकी पीछे का अगर कुछ आ गया तो आ गया। 800 लाइट नहीं चल जाएगा। फ्लैश में इस बाकी आएगा, लोगों का तो सिल्वर आएगा।
लाइट में इसी समय चल जाती।
मम्मी को चलाना है। पापा काजल को ले चलिए।
क्या हुआ?
सिर्फ नहीं करना, ये तो गोली ले लीजिए, थोड़ी देर थक गई है।
मेरी लोन का पैसा डालूं, मेरी लोन का
रिक्शा तुम इसका क्यों नहीं बैठे?
ठीक बैठ जाओ भैया। नहीं पलट ना जाए, पैर ना फट जाए। अरे दूर है पैर। बस
purchase their favorite book.
I don't want to do it. I did it yesterday. I did it after 65. I'm like, I'm not doing it ever again.
Rana. आ जाओ। क्या ले रहे गए थे आप? क्या है वो?
We have over 750,000 square feet of flooring and furniture.
उसको हैंडी रखो जरा, उसको वीडियो का रिकॉर्डिंग करना, कैसे बनाना है उसका पूरा दिन भर में।
Like giant.
Dilophosaurus. One of the earliest carnivores, we now know Dilophosaurus is actually poisonous, spitting its venom at its prey, causing blindness.
Inside, you'll initially see all the cache storage space that you have set up on this server. Now, when we installed ISA server, we set it up to have 100 megabytes of cache. This is an unusually low amount, however. In the real world, you would actually set this up in the gigabyte ranges, depending on the size of your company. The first one we want to set up is the HTTP caching. Now, the first thing I want you to notice is since we installed this as a caching server, it is enabled by default. And it says, unless the source specifies expiration, update the object in the cache, and then you have your 4 options. Let me explain these. If you choose frequently, you notice that you can kind of see it in the grayed out behind here. It says, I will never cache content. It says no less than 0 minutes in age and no more than 0 weeks in age. Overall, frequently will immediately expire your cache content as it's downloading, unless the source specifies an expiration date. Here's the idea. As a website administrator, you could code what the expiration date of your web content is. For example, maybe you have a website that you set up and you change it once a week. Well, you could code in the HTML header that this will expire a week from, and then the date that you have in there as well. Now, not many website administrators do that, so if you choose frequently, expect that your caching will be kept at a minimum. Most things will be retrieved from the internet. Normally, which is checked by default, allows you to have HTTP caching in kind of a balanced setting. You will retrieve some from the internet, however, some of it you will retrieve from the cache. And look at this. This kind of spells it out. First off, let me click this so we can read it without it being gray. It says, this percentage of content age, 20%, since creation or modification. What this means is that the cache stored on your ISA server will be stored 20% of the age since it was created. So, if it was created 100 days ago, and this is noted in the HTML header, if it was created 100 days ago, it will be stored maximum 20 days, or in this case, no more than 1 day. See, this is how it works. It will store the percentage since it was creation, so either 20 days if it was created 100 days ago, or these items overrule. No less than 15 minutes will it ever be in the cache, and no more than 1 day will it ever be in the cache. That is what normally will set up for you. So if, for example, the content was created 10 seconds ago, that would end up, timing it out after about 2 seconds, and it would only be valid for 2 seconds. However, this will overrule and say that this can be cached no less than 15 minutes, and that will end up remaining for 15 minutes in the cache. Now, less frequently, we'll cache items longer. You see that it goes up to no less than 30 minutes or no more than 2 days. Then, of course, you can set your own caching by typing in a specific percentage. You could say, I want 50% of the content age, or no less than, and you have your options here, no less than, you could get crazy, no less than 30 weeks. The idea is you want to try and find a balanced amount. And most people, most network administrators, will choose to go with the normal style of caching on this tab. Now you'll notice that up here we also have an FTP tab. Yes, ISA Server allows us, and by default does cache FTP objects. These are files that you download from an FTP site. And by default, the time to live for FTP, all FTP objects, is going to be 1440 minutes. Let's see, divide that by 60, carry the 1, that's 24 hours. So FTP objects will be cached by default for 24 hours. Why they didn't put 24 in here instead of the 1440 is beyond anyone. However, I would say it would be safe, just a suggestion, it would probably be safe to crank that up even more, maybe even 48 hours or beyond. The reason why is FTP objects hardly ever change. I mean, these are zip files, and if the file name stays the same, most likely the object will stay the same. So you could even get this into the weeks if you wanted to, and I think you would still be safe, unless you found that people were downloading content or FTP files that were constantly changing all the time. Now, the configuration of active caching is a little odd. Let me explain. First off, active caching updates files that are stored in the cache as the time to live is about to expire. So if it's a frequently accessed file, you don't have to wait for it to expire, a client to access it to be re-downloaded. ISA Server can recognize it, go, oh, that's accessed all the time, I need to update it. Go out, update that on its own, and take care of it when the bandwidth requirements are fairly low. The reason I say it's a little odd is because this is how you enable it. You check the box, and you have retrieve files in one of 3 options: frequently, normally, and less frequently. Overall, frequently is going to be the top performance for the client because the items in the cache will most often be up to date. Less frequency means that it won't update them as often. Some of the things may time out, but the very popular web pages that are stored will be updated. Now this is why it's a little odd. As a network administrator, what does frequently mean to me? What does less frequently mean to me? I want a time, I want an algorithm, I want something to go by. Unfortunately, the algorithm for active caching is completely undocumented by Microsoft. However, I've done a little research, and what I've found out is it works kind of like SETI. You ever heard of this program SETI? It's the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. It's a screensaver that installs on your computer that when your processor cycles are fairly low, it goes out and downloads extraterrestrial files from the internet and tries to find them in the galaxy. Well, this works in a similar fashion. When your processor cycles are low on the ISA server, it pretty much assumes that network activity is low. So that's when it will go out and actively cache the files. When it's frequently, it will update as many of them as it can while the processor cycles are low. Less frequently, will go out and wait a longer time before it actually starts updated. Wait for the processor to be idle for quite some time. So it's not really something you can put your thumb on. That's the term I'm looking for. But overall, active caching is very helpful because it does save you plenty of bandwidth. Let's take a look at this Advanced tab, and you'll see just how tunable ISA Server really is. These are all the, I guess, tweaking options of the cache that you can get in and get down and dirty with what exactly caching is going to be doing. First off, do not cache objects larger than blank. If you want to limit how large an item in your cache can be, you can check this box and specify the size. Most of the time you won't have to. So overall, the default is okay. By the way, this is the defaults that you see on the screen. But you can limit the size to, let's say you have a lot of people downloading big pictures, so you might say 500 kilobytes is the limit of an object in the cache. And you can get even larger. You can get into the megabytes or even the gigabytes. And I have yet to see a web page or an object downloaded from the web that gets into the range of gigabytes, but could happen. We also have cache objects that have an unspecified last modification time, and that is checked by default. Now, if you remember back to the first tab, HTTP, one of the things that it uses to calculate how long the time to live of any object in the cache would be is the last modification time. It says, well, based on when this page was last modified, it will stay in the cache this long. Now, some pages may not have a last modification time. If you check this uncheck this box, it will not cache those. However, most of the time it's safe to cache those. It's especially safe to cache those because normally those don't change. It's the ones that do have modification times that change all the time. Cache objects, even though they do not have an HTTP status code of 200. Now that's a cryptic one. Overall, HTTP status code 200 is okay. If you access a website and everything downloads okay, you get a status code of 200. So what this is saying